Hello, this is Wmpyr here to walk you guys through footwork as fast as I can. So instead of using double sticks, that's pretty much where we start, is single stick or double stick. I'm going to go with double training knives, just because it's easier for me to move around indoors. All right, so the first thing is you're going to be doing partner drills, right? Boom, 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 this kind of stuff. And when you're doing this kind of stuff, you just want to be able to walk around, just natural, okay? So when you get to like heaven six type movements like this, right, you want to be able to do this kind of movement with the arms while being able to, just walk at the same time. How do you go a step higher than that? Well, you could start increasing the speed. You could start putting stuff on the ground where you have to avoid things. So while you're doing this, you kind of have to keep an eye on the ground and watch where you're walking. You could be running, So run back and forth, because it is a partner drill. So towards and away from each other. So those are really, really good exercises to go to the next level. Now, once you do that, the next part, once you're comfortable enough with all that, so that's the first part, okay? The next part, in my opinion, is to become more combat ready, you need a wide stance. It's just very difficult to fight someone off of you for like self-defense in a very normal standing stance like this. Your base, your balance is just not solid. So you want to be here. Now that can be, so you start off standing like this. I take a step back and now I'm here, I'm solid. Or I take a step sideways, I'm solid. Or I could take a step forwards, and either way, the stance is this stance right here. I want to be here. Now, ideally, I don't want to be facing square with the opponent. Sometimes you have to, especially if grappling starts getting involved. But ideally, you prefer bladed, especially when there's a little bit more distance. Okay, you want bladed, and that's why they stand a lot more that way in arts like Taekwondo and fencing. You see that they are very, very bladed. Now, when there's a chance of getting closer a lot more and fighting in closer range, then you almost kind of have to be squared with the opponent, okay? Because once again, look at something like sumo wrestling or Greco-Roman wrestling. You're a lot more solid that way. So anyway, from right here, either way, we want this wide stance. Now, the problem with the wide stance is mobility. So then, how do we practice that? Before we start moving, the first thing that I like to recommend to you guys is just don't move. Don't worry about moving or footwork right now. In the bladed stance, right? And if you're wondering what is the correct bladed stance, it's like push up against the wall, okay? So when you push up against the wall and you're putting your shoulder into it, that's pretty good indicator right there, because you're strong structure-wise, because you're strong enough to push something. So that's the kind of structure that you want. Anyway, once you get there, now we have to adjust, because if you're used to doing the heaven six or the partner drills, we have all these kinds of partner. You're used to doing it square, okay? When you do it bladed now, whether it's left side forward, or in our case, a lot of times, it is the weapon side, which is probably your right hand, or your stronger hand forward, okay? So in this case now, the target line has shifted from here, now it's here. You have to get used to that, because if you're not, and you only do your stuff from here in training, and then in real life, you try to do it from here, you could clip off your kneecap, okay? You could hit your legs and stuff. So you got to practice now from here. And with the big swings, yes, with a knife, I don't have to do big swings, but I should still practice them. And just the other day, like yesterday, I did some yard work with the machete. And when I did that, you know, I'm so glad that I have the training, because I'm able to really put the force that I need to try to cut those smaller branches off. And I could do it without worrying about hitting my own leg. Why? Because from the training, this kind of practice. So make sure you're in that wide stance. And now, this is my center here, so to speak. This angle going all the way to the knee right here. This is what I need to, this angle. So with the blade, it's kind of like, you see this angle? I'm putting it right here, and it goes off to my right hip, right side, right knee. So this is the angle that I'm playing. That's my center. Okay, so you guys have to practice that and get used to that. If you switch to this side, left side, same thing. Now it's left hip, left knee. Okay, and you have to make sure to do it to be able to go full swing and not worry about clipping off your knee or hitting your leg. Okay, so that's the first part of this wide stance. You got to get used to this bladed stance. That's number one. Number two, I recommend is as you now doing this with a partner, okay, doing this kind of stuff with a partner, we get in the rhythm. You don't need a partner to do this, but you start bringing that leg back. All right, so let me, from right here, so I start boom, 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 bring that leg back, right? So this is what Sensei Rick calls the floating foot. You see a lot of Filipino martial arts guys do that. Why do they do that? Filipino martial arts people do this because that, where they go high and they fake you out and they hit you in the leg, I mean, if they get your leg, that could be brutal. So just like in Muay Thai kickboxing, where they have the front leg very light, ready to check, right? Like that. We kind of have to do the same thing. Or also like in wrestling, where you're having the front leg that is vulnerable to being grabbed into a takedown, whether it's a double leg or a single leg. So you have that front leg almost like bait, and then when they come in, you shoot it back. All right, so it's the same idea. So it goes well with Muay Thai kickboxing, goes well with wrestling. Therefore, I mean, both of those are in MMA. It goes well with MMA, and this is what we do in Filipino martial arts. So get that front leg and get in the habit of bringing it back, okay? As you're doing this, what I recommend is, it is easier to bring it back like this, all right? So, especially when you're being light on your feet, you bring it back like that. That is kind of like a Bruce Lee footwork. Boom, 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 boom. And maybe that's fine when you're standing and you have a longer range, right? But what I'm recommending here is, what I don't like about that is when you bring the leg around like this, when you do that, you can see my groin is exposed because I'm coming here and I'm coming here. It's a wide motion. So rather than that, I recommend shoot it back. So you're just shooting your leg straight back. And I change stance. So what we're doing here is from, now I got used to this angle, right? From a bladed stance. Doing my techniques from a bladed angle. That's number one. Number two is floating foot, right? So we're doing a floating foot. Number three is now switching stances from here. So right here, boom, boom, boom. Shoot that leg back. Shoot that leg back. Shoot it back. You can bring it back forward and go back to the original stance. That's fine. But we shoot it back, and you can change stance if you want to, or shoot it back and bring it back to the original stance. So that's the next thing to practice, okay? After that, once you get that, then next, this is where I incorporate the boxing footwork. At the end of the day, you want something very simple. And in this wide stance, I want to be able to move. Okay, so how do I do that? Well, what I call the rocking position, forward and back. This helps me move, as you can see. So when I have a little bit more distance with the opponent and I'm trying to get them off of me, I can move now. I have the footwork, right? But the footwork that I'm utilizing here is just forwards and back. I'm just rocking forward and back to help me move sideways or left or right, forwards and back, okay? So here, see, I'm moving back, I'm moving forwards, but how I'm able to do that is through this rocking position, going like this, forwards and back. Why do I do that? The reason why I do that, instead of, if I want to go sideways or I want to go forwards or back, take a step. Why don't I take a step like that? Why don't I just do this? The reason why I don't do that is, if you can see right here, if I want to go this way and I do this, I just open myself up for a groin shot. In a sport, doesn't matter. In a street, yes. And so once again, I am very wary of that. Therefore, instead of just going like this, I will go here. See? And I can keep my front leg as a shield the whole time as I move like this. So this is that front and back motion that I'm using. Look, if I'm going this way, I'm still moving like so, rather than here, where I want to go this way, so I take a step, I just open myself up. So a lot of footwork I see in the martial arts being taught is, if you want to go that way, you step that way, and then drag, slide the foot, right? Step and slide. Step and slide. If you do that, like I said, it opens up your groin. So that's why I like to keep the front leg more as a shield and move with this. So this way, you can see, even though I'm moving this way and this way, I'm not opening myself up. So that actually takes some practice, but the idea there is you circle around the opponent. I don't want to play so much the front and back game because it's easy to run out of space. If I go circle, then it's easier for me to maintain space, and also for self-defense, if the guy is standing, let's say with his left side forward like this, all right, I'm going to be going towards the left side. Why? Because that's his back. If I come this way, then I have to deal with both arms and both legs. But if I go this way, towards his back, it's a much safer option. So for self-defense, I would like to do that. Offense-wise, it decreases my targets. So if I come this way, yes, I'm going to be in the line of fire, but it also gives me good primary targets too. But then it could be a trade-off. Therefore, offense-wise, unless I know I've hurt the guy, I wouldn't come here. I would go always towards the back. So if he's standing this way, you want to go towards his right side. If his right side's forward, go towards his right, go towards his back. Always go towards the back, and that is for defensive purposes. The only time I would go offensive is I know they're hurt. You know, I know I have a chance. I know I have a prime opportunity. Then I'll go into the line of fire and try to take advantage of that. So that's the idea about the circling footwork, and that needs to become natural for you guys. You see, so even when I step this way, you didn't see me do this. Okay, I do this. Once again, I open up here. So move here, here, here. I keep it closed as much as I can. Now it's 100%. Can I keep it closed? No, it's, you know, the legs are opened up. So now it's about playing angles. Okay, so it's more about playing angles. But you try to, once again, you do definitely want to avoid this. You definitely want to avoid this because those open up. All right, so the next thing, once you practice that, the next part is we want to utilize this to our advantage, okay? So with everything that we've done so far, you've learned to have this bladed stance where you're in a nice base. You learn how to move like that. You learn how to do your techniques safely without hitting yourself. So those are all important basics. But now the next thing is we're actually going to go into doing something that I first said was something we want to avoid, a no-no, which is this. Okay, we want to use that to our advantage. So being able to come here in a feet together stance, that is beneficial because that's easier for mobility, right? So we can move around much better that way. So we want to use that. And the way we're going to do that is 1, 2, 3. So I just want you guys to practice this motion right there. The one thing is that you always want to finish wide. Why is that? Because once again, they're not equal. Standing like this versus standing like this is not equal. If you're used to practicing this and then you're also used to practicing this, then in your mind it's equal. So we always have to emphasize this more. Therefore, don't do what I just did right now, and you want to go 1, 2, 3, and then wide. Okay, you could go 4, 5, 6, however many you want. Always go 1, 2, wide. Okay, never end with narrow. Okay, so the benefit of moving narrow is I get to slide in, and please, you don't want to stay here. So my body is ready. It's energy stored. I'm ready to go. Boom. You see, I can slide, and then I come back to a wide stance. Okay, so let me put the weapons down to practice this. Now let's say I have a target. I'm going to pretend that's a person. Now I'm going to start right here. And okay, let me go ahead. So from here, I'm going to attack this person. I'm going to go 1, 2, and then there. That's my wide stance. I'm back to wide, but I used the narrow twice right there, and then I went to wide. So once again, from here, I went narrow, wide. Okay, the narrow helps me really jump in explosively, and that is something is hard to get, or we don't get as much from this footwork. From here, I can go boom, like I can lunge and stuff, but to be able to go 1, 2, 3, 4, like so, and then back to wide, you don't really get that. Therefore, you want to add that mobility to your technique, and the way that I recommend that, once again, is from here, whatever stance, it could be narrow or it could be a wide stance, you're going to jump. You can see how when I jump, all this energy is stored into my body, and I can explode that out again. And whether I go from narrow to wide, or I go to narrow again, where I can keep doing narrow, and I can cover a long range, that's up to you, okay? So, but the main idea is never forget, no matter how many narrows you put in there, narrow, 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 always finish with wide. So, in order to practice this, I recommend just, without weapons, just practice going 1, 2, 3, 4, just going like this, back and forth, and then finish wide, all right? And then the next step after that would be, as I go narrow, back to wide, I'm incorporating now the slashes. So again, I'm gonna go narrow, back to wide, okay? So that's it for now. Thank you for viewing, and take care, folks.